यहाँ पे किसको पता है? अपने चेहरे से पूछो, अपनी आंखों से पूछो।
Okay, so today we will discuss about internal stage data loading. Okay, we'll discuss about internal stage, we'll discuss about NoSQL. Okay, so first of all, what you have to understand here, uh, before starting the today's activity, first you have to download SnowSQL. So in Snowflake, there are completely three version is there. Like basically, one is classic console environment, one is snow site environment, another one is command prompt environment. Like you can access the Snowflake account through the classic console environment, through the snow site environment, and through the command prompt environment. So this is what we call snow site. Last 1 month, whatever we are doing, that is we called it as a snow site. Okay, now today we will see how to connect the Snowflake account through the command prompt environment. Okay, to do that, basically what you have to do, you have to download the SnowSQL client. So this is what we call Snow CLI client. So this client you have to download. So you have to go to the Google, you have to write here SnowSQL download. You will be reaching to this page, you click on it. It's very simple. Just come down, and here three versions are there. If you have the Linux version, this one. If you have the MacOS, this one. And if you have the Windows, this one. Click on the link. The one file will be downloaded. Okay, and just double click on the file, and it will be installed. It's a simple installation, like we install the different softwares in our PC or the desktop. So similar way, this will also be installed. So simple small file, just double click it and install it. Okay, nothing else. So I already have installed this one. Once the file is installed, so it will be, if you click here, you can see, if you click here, one file will be downloaded. Okay, and that file is nothing but the SnowSQL. You can see. So if you go here, you can see this NoSQL 1.2.31 Windows downloaded. Now just double click on the file and download it. Sorry, and install it. Okay, installation is nothing but just next finish. That's it. Okay, once it is installed, then what you have to do, you have to go to the command prompt environment, and here you have to write SnowSQL. Okay, in the command prompt you have to write SnowSQL space SnowSQL. First you will write SnowSQL, then space, then hyphen A for account. Okay, then space. Okay, then we will come here and we'll go to the our account section. Okay, this is our account. You can see IR 23,671. This is our account, whatever we have logged in. So we will copy this locator IDs, this locator. This is the locator ID. We will copy this URL. Okay, here one URL is there. We will copy that URL. Okay, I started the recording, right? We'll copy the URL, then we'll go to the project, we'll go to the SQL again, and we will write down here the URL. Okay. Now from this URL, after https:// we will start copying, and till before the snowflakecomputing.com, this part we will be copy. Okay, https:// so after https:// we will start copying that part, and before snowflakecomputing.com, till that point we will be copying that entire thing. And this will be having your, first it will be having your locator ID, then it will be having your region, and then it will be having your cloud details. So these three information will be there. We will copy this part. sorry, we will copy this part, and that part we will be pasting here. Just copy, and here you right click, it will be pasted here. This is your account, A for account. This is your account ID. Then again, space, then hyphen, U for user ID. So SnowSQL space, then hyphen A for account, space, then you have to paste the account ID, then space, hyphen U for user ID, then space, you have to mention the username. So for this account, my username is Snowflake ADM. So that user ID in the sense, the user ID which you use to log in every day with your account. So that particular user ID. Okay. So now we need to provide the user ID. Okay. So, and then we need to give the enter. After some time, it will ask for the password. It will take some time. So meanwhile, we'll go here and we'll learn some theoretical part of the internal stage. Okay. Let's start. So what is internal stage? So as I told you while taking the AWS session, I told you there is a concept called stage in Snowflake. Now, what is stage? Stage is nothing but the location where we keep our file to store the data into the Snowflake table. That location we called as a stage location, right? Just a minute. So the location where we keep our file, we call it as a stage, right? So now for an example, let's say, and as I told you, there are two type of stages there. One is internal stage, one is external stage, right? Now let's say, again, I'm writing here. So what is stage? Stage is nothing but the location where we keep file which to be loaded in table. So that particular path, that particular direction, that particular folder where we keep our file is called as a stage area. Okay. Now there are two type of stages there. One is external stage, one is internal stage. So external stage, one example we already have seen called AWS. External stage is nothing but the location or the stage which is outside of the Snowflake, like the location we taken hired from the outside of the Snowflake. That means, let's say, we already have seen the AWS data loading. Now in AWS data loading, what happens? Like we create another account with AWS, and we create another account with AWS, and that AWS account, in that AWS account, we have taken, or we have taken the storage services from S3. We opened a bucket in the AWS cloud, and there we placed our files. So that part was completely, that AWS S3, these are all completely outside of the Snowflake vendor. So there is no relationship between the AWS and AWS bucket and the Snowflake, because that is completely outside vendor. Like S3, Amazon is the separate vendor for the Snowflake, and that is the reason we call that as an external stage. That means externally hired storage. So that's the reason we call it as an external stage. Okay. Now there is another stage is there, that is what we call internal stage. Internal stage is nothing but which is managed by Snowflake itself, and this stage is part of your storage as well. If you go to the cost management section, okay, and if you go to the consumption section, and if you come here, storage, now you can see this is the stage, and stage is nothing but this is your part of your storage. Okay, so this is what we call internal stage. Okay, so stage is nothing but this is the part of your storage. So part of your storage means like basically how you are storing your data internally. Similarly, you can store your files also internally, though this file also will be stored in the cloud itself. not taking that cloud services separately. It is how we are, whenever we are writing any insert command here, the data is getting stored in the cloud itself. As I told you, if the account is open in the AWS, the data will be stored in the AWS storage. If the account is open with the Azure, that means if your account is hosted on Azure, so in that case, that will store your data into the Azure blob storage. So like internally, it is taking the AWS services only, or internally it is taking the Azure storage service only, but it is not taking that area separately. It is included in the Snowflake, and which is, that's the reason we call it as a managed by Snowflake itself. Okay, so internal stage is nothing but managed by Snowflake itself. We are not taking any other external storage separately. How we store the data, the similar way we store the file as well. Okay, so that is what we call internal stage. Okay, now internal stage is something which is managed. Basically, internal stage is something which is categorized into three way. Okay, so there are three type of internal stages there. Okay, so one is table stage. This type of stage creates when we create a table. So this creates automatically. We are not creating anything. Automatically when a table created. So that means it will be created. The table stage will be created when automatically by the Snowflake itself, whenever a table will be created. Okay, so whenever a table creates, the internal table stage also will be created automatically. Okay, this will be created. Okay, the table stage name will be same as the table name. What does it mean? The table stage name will be same as the table name. That means if you have created a table, called student, the stage also will be created. The table stage also will be created with the same name of the table student. If you have created a table called, let's say, customer, the stage also will be created. Table stage also will be created with the same name called customer. Okay, if you have created a table called product, the stage also will be created with the same name called product, like that. So whatever table will be created, at the same time a private area will be allocated to that table. Whatever table will be created, at the same time a private area will be allocated to that table, and that location we call as a table stage. Automatically created this stage. We don't create this stage externally. It is automatically created by Snowflake. This table stage automatically created whenever a table gets created. Any table, if you create T1, T2, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, according to that table name, that table stage also will be created. That means a location will be privately allocated to that table, and that location will be only accessed by the table only. So that means, okay, one more thing, table stage will be denoted as a @ symbol. So what does it mean? It means it will be looks like this way. Student table stage will be @ student. Customer table stage will be @ customer. Product table stage will be @ product. Okay, like that. Now remember one thing, this @ student stage, that means the student stage is only accessible via or by student table only. That means if you load any file here, that file can be loaded to the student table only. This file, whatever file you have kept in the student stage, that file you can't load to any other table. Similarly, whatever files you have kept to the customer stage, that you can't load to this any other table other than the customer table. So like that. So whatever stage will be created, from the table stage, you can load the data to the that particular table only, not to the other table. So simple thing, the student table can access the student table stage. Customer table can access the customer table stage. Product table can access the product table stage. These are all the example. So student table can't access customer table stage. Similarly, vice versa. Customer table also can't access the student table stage, like that. This is what we call table stage. There is another stage we have, that is called user stage. Whenever user stage also automatically creates when a user creates. Okay, so that means whenever we will be creating a user in Snowflake, automatically a user stage also will be created. So now you can see it is asking for the password. We will enter the password here and enter. So you will be able to see it's logged in with your account. Okay. So anyways, we'll work on it after some time. So user stage is nothing but like this is also like table stage only. It is also automatically created, but it will be created whenever a user gets created. Okay, whenever a user gets created. Okay, and it will be denoted as a @ then tilde operator. Okay, this will be denoted as a user stage for any account. Like this account is having a separate user stage. Now your account is also having a separate user stage. If you create any user from here, so whenever they will be login, so they will also have a user stage. And this user stage is user specific. Only that particular user can access. Okay. Fine, and it will be denoted with the @ tilde operator. Okay, this is how basically it looks like. And remember one thing, from user stage you can load the data to multiple table. Like from table stage you cannot load the data to multiple table. Why? Because let's say you are accessing student stage. From student stage you can load the data to the student table only. From student stage you cannot load the data to customer or product table. Similarly, from customer stage, you can load the data to the customer table only. From product stage, you can load the data to the product table only. But in case of user stage, from the user stage, you can load the data to multiple table, like how we have the work in the AWS stage. From the stage, we loaded the data to JSON, we loaded the data to the Parquet table, we loaded the data to the student table. So different table you can load the data. Similarly, in case of user stage also, in case of user stage, you can load the data to the multiple table. So that you have to remember. Okay. Now another stage is there, that is what we call named internal stage. This is simple thing. This is not automatically creates. It is user created stage. It is user created stage. This type of stage does not create automatically. Okay. This is the named internal stage, and this stage does not create it automatically. It created when user creates that stage. That means whenever we create a stage manually, like through the script, that is what we call named internal stage. This will be denoted as a @ symbol, like your AWS, whatever we did. And from here also you can load the data to multiple table. So that means here, if you have a customer file and a student file, then customer file can be loaded to the customer table, student file can be loaded to the student table. That is possible. Similarly for the user stage also. But in case of table stage, customer file can be loaded to the customer table only, student file can be loaded to the student table only, like that. Okay, so I'll show you practically, you will be able to understand. So named internal stage is nothing but which will be created by user. That means whenever it is not created automatically, whenever we as a user creates any stage, that is what we call named internal stage. Okay. So now this three type of stage we will be implementing. We will be loading the data from these three type of stages. Okay. And one more thing, while working with the internal stage, all the steps, whatever I will do today, everything I will do through the command prompt environment. But you can execute through the Snowsite environment as well. It is not mandatory that you have to execute this create table, this create database, this commands through the command prompt. But remember one thing, there is a one step for which you must need the command prompt environment. And that is the reason in case of internal stage, we always use the command prompt environment. So I'll show you what is that stage and all. Before that, first I will create the database. So, okay, before going into that, I will go to the basically your command prompt environment, and here you can see no graphical content is there. So that means whatever you have to do through the basically what I can say, you have to do through the script only. Let's say you want to change a database. So what you can do, you can write here use command, use, then database, then which database you want to select. That particular database you can select here. Let's say use database, I want to select DemoDB. After that semicolon, once you provided the semicolon, and after that just simple enter. Semicolon, then just simple enter. So let's enter it. So whenever you will enter, so you will be able to select the database. You can see DemoDB database has been selected. Public schema has been selected. You can select use schema, and which schema you want to select, that also you can do. Okay, like that. So for an example, let's say you want to select your warehouse. You can write use warehouse. So after that, you can choose the warehouse, then semicolon, then enter. So that will be chosen like that. Okay. So this is the way basically we can do everything here. For an example, let's say I will be creating one database here. So let's copy this database. So you can copy the database from here, like create or replace database name. You can type also. So I'm just copying to save the time. So create or replace database name, and semicolon is must here. So because once the semicolon is entered, then Snowflake will be able to understand that this is the end of the line. If you don't have semicolon, if you enter, it will come to the next page, next line. So you have to give the semicolon and then enter. So it will be creating the database. Okay, and you can see automatically the database got selected also. And this database actually created inside this account only. If I refresh here, you can see this internal stage data load got created here. So you are accessing this account through the command prompt, nothing else. Okay. Now you have created the database. Now you can create the table here. Let me copy. So first of all, I am creating the table, customer table here. So you can see the create table name, customer ID, name, location, product ID, contact details, all those information we have given. After that, bracket close, we entered the semicolon, and then now I'll be entering the so once I entered, then you can see the table got created. Okay, now after that, you can, if you want to select the data from the table, you can write select star from, and you can see automatically it will be populated, and you can select from there and you can enter. So you can see no data is there, only table got created. Okay. Now, first we will be seeing the example with the named internal stage. So first I will create the file format here. Let me create the file format. And remember here, before creation of the file format in our AWS data loading session, we have created the storage integration object. We established the connection between the account with AWS and the Snowflake. We did a lot of things, right? We created the roles and all. So basically those part will be removed from here. Why? Because those part was there and was applicable because we was accessing the external stage. External stage is something which is outside of the Snowflake, and outside of the Snowflake, AWS was another vendor, Snowflake was another vendor. So that's the reason we had to create the integration object. We had to establish the connection between the two accounts. But here we are not accessing anything outside of Snowflake. We are not accessing anything separately outside of from Snowflake. And that's the reason here the entire connection establishment step will be removed. You don't need to establish any connection here. That is the reason internal stage is very simple to use. But because internal stage, in case of internal stage, just automatically Snowflake is providing you the stage also. Just use that stage and load the data. So if you are not creating the internal named internal stage, still Snowflake is providing you two type of stage which is automatically created. One is table stage, another one is basically your user stage. You can use those two type of stage, and simply you can go through it, right? And that's the reason generally that's the reason generally what we do is basically this type of staging activity is very simple, and we don't need to set up any connection and all. But internal stage we use in case of our own utilization. For example, we will be debugging any data loading, we are developing anything. So for testing purpose, for development purpose, we use the internal stage, right? So for an example, let's say I will be writing here, I'll type, what happened? 1 second, let me copy it again. So create or replace. So so as I told you, the connection related activity is not needed here. Now we will be create or replace file format name, type is equal to CSV, skip it is equal to 1. So we are going to load the CSV file, and that's the reason we are creating a file format with the type CSV. Enter. The file format got created here. Okay. Now, once the file format got created, I will be creating the stage here. So while creating the stage, so as I told you, this is the named internal stage, and named internal stage created by user only. So you can see create or replace stage name. Just we are mentioning the create or replace stage. This is what we call internal stage. And let me create the stage. So the stage got created. Now if you write here list @ my internal state. So my internal stage. If you execute this one, and you can see basically this stage is showing here, but no data available, no data file available here. Okay, but the stage is showing here. Okay, name, size, and all those things. Okay. Now I need to now next step is I have some file into the C drive, into the files folder. I have kept some file here, and what I'm doing, I'm just keep those files, whatever I kept into the C drive file folder, those files I am just taking and loading into the my internal stage, because this my internal stage is the stage where I need to load my files. So some files are available in my local drive, and from there I am loading the data to I'm loading the file to the internal stage, because I need to load the data from the internal stage, and that's the reason from my local system, from my local PC, I'm loading the data to the internal stage. And to do that, we need to execute this put file command, because here we don't have any browse option or something. So we need to do through the command line, and the command is nothing but put command. Put command will use to load your file from your local or any network drive to internal stage. So put file : then you have to mention the source path. There multiple files are there, so that's the reason I have taken start.csv. That means only CSV files we are taking from this folder, and we are loading the then space, then we mention the internal stage name. So we are loading this file to the internal stage. Okay. So now if you come and if you execute this thing here, so let's execute. Once I execute it, you can see the three file was there: customer.csv, student.csv, student_v1.csv. All the files got loaded to the internal stage. Now if you write here list my internal stage, you will be able to see these files has been loaded here in the internal stage. Okay. Now once the file has been loaded to the internal stage, now next step will be simple. We need to run the copy statement to load the data to the customer table. Okay. So we already have created the customer table. Now we will copy this statement and we will paste here. So copy into customer from internal stage. This is the internal stage. File format is equal to CSV format. Pattern is equal to, we are using pattern clause. Why? Because here we have customer file, student file, both. I don't want to load student file into the customer table. That's the reason I mentioned here pattern clause. We already have seen this pattern example in the AWS. So the same way you are using pattern clause. On error is equal to, we are using skip file. You can use continue as well. Another new thing you are able to see here, that is called purge is equal to true. By default, this purge value always set to false. If you don't write this line, then always it will set to false. If you want to make it true, you can make it true like this way. And what is this activity? Activity is nothing but if this customer file successfully loaded to the customer table, then this file will be removed from the internal stage automatically. Okay. If any error comes, then this file will be there as it is. But if this file successfully loaded all the data to the customer table, then that particular file will be removed from the internal stage automatically. Okay. Now I will press the enter button. Once the enter press, now you can see the file got loaded. So total 6 record has been loaded. Now I will check the table. You can see select star from customer semicolon enter. You can see the entire data has been loaded to the table customer. Okay. This is how the data gets loaded through the internal stage. This is what we call internal stage. Now in the internal stage, right now, if you check the internal stage list, now you can see your customer file got deleted from the internal stage because the data got loaded successfully. That's the reason the customer file got deleted from the internal stage because of this purge is equal to true command. Okay. And now after that, if you create now the student table, and you can load the student file to the student table as well, because as I told you, can load the data to multiple table. So you loaded the data already to the customer. Similarly, if you create a student table, now you have this two file. Now this two data you can load to the student table as well. There is no issue with that. Okay. Next one is, we will see the example of table stage. Okay. So let me create a separate table here. So let's say I'm creating one table called student table. Okay. So let me create a student table. So you can see here we mention create table student, student ID, name, grade, age, contact. Now this 5 column is already there in your file. Okay. This 5 column will be there in your file, but load date, load file, row number, these 3 columns are not there in your file. Load date, load file, row number, these 3 columns are not there in your file. So these 3 columns are not there in your file. Now these 3 columns I will be loading in a separate way. I'll show you how to load this. So our file, whatever file we have loaded in case of basically AWS, the same file we will be using. So student ID, name, grade, age, contact, these are all details are there in the file, but these 3 columns are not there in the file. Now we will be loading at the time of data loading part. Okay, so let's create the table first. So now you can see the table got created. Now if you check the table here, select star from student, enter. Now you can see the table got created. Okay. Now I will write here list at the rate. What I told, table stage will be created with the same name of the table, right? So at the rate percentage, then what? Then student. This is what your table stage. Now, if you execute, you can see you are able to see that location. But right now, no files are there, but the location is visible. If you write here student one, that location is not there. Does not exist. Why? Because I did not created the table name with student one. I created the table with student. So that's the reason that stage name will be at the rate percentage student only. So if you write this one, it will be showing you the details here. So with the same table, with the same name of the table, the stage also will be created. So that you have to remember. Okay. If your table name is student, the table stage will be created with the name of the table. So that's the reason this stage has been created. Okay. Now what I will do, again the same way, I need to load the file from my local to the student stage. That is what I'm doing. And okay, remember one thing, this put file you have to execute through the command prompt only. If you execute this put file through the snow site, it will be, I forget to show you that one second. If you execute, why I am using command prompt in case of internal stage data loading? Because of single command. This command can't be executed through the snow site environment. You can see it will be showing you unsupported features. This put file command in last cases also, in case of internal stage also, I use this put file command, and this put file command only to be executed through the command prompt environment. It will not be executed through the snow site environment, and that's the reason we must need the SnowSQL installed whenever we are working with the internal stage. Okay, so let me copy this step. So this put file command we are executing. So we need to execute through here. So again, the same way, we have some files in this folder, and from there we are taking all the CSV files and we are loading into the student stage. Enter. So you can see again this tree file has been loaded to the student stage. Now you can see here list @student. So you will be able to see these three files are available. But as I told you, you can load multiple files in the student stage. But from the student stage, you can load the data to only student table only. Customer file you have loaded, that's fine. But this customer file you can't load to the customer table from this student stage. That you have to understand. I will show you. Before that, I will copy the data first. So now I want to load the student file to the student table. So what I am writing here, so you can see copy into student ID, name, grade, age, contact, load date, load file, row number, all the column I have mentioned here. After that, from, then within brackets select $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. Why? As I told you in case of AWS class as well, $1 means first column of the CSV. $2 means second column of the CSV. $3 means third column of the CSV, and so on. So that means this first column is mapped with the student ID. So student ID will be mapped with the first column of the CSV. Student name will be mapped with the second column of the CSV. Student 3 is grade will be mapped with the third column of the CSV. Age will be mapped with the fourth column of the CSV. Contact will be mapped with the fifth column of the CSV. Done. Now only these 5 columns are there in the file. So now what about the remaining data? So as a load date, we are loading current timestamp. Whatever the current time will be there, that will be loaded as a load date. Load file and row number. For load file, we are using metadata $file name. Metadata $file name and metadata $file row number. This two is actually the system variable. Or you can say these are all actually stage attributes. You can use these two variable with the external stage also. It will work like a same way. So metadata $file name, metadata $file row number. These two is stage attributes. Metadata $file name provides you the file name from which file the data is being loaded. And metadata $file row number will give you one row number allocated to each and every row, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. From student stage. Okay. File format, CSV format, pattern. We have mentioned here student. I need to mention, provide one dot here. So student dot star. So that means any file which is having the student word, that should be loaded the data. Okay. So I want to load the student data only to the student table, not the customer data. So that's the reason I have mentioned this pattern. On error is equal to continue and enter. So whenever I will enter this data, you can see both the files, student and student v1, both the file has been loaded into the table successfully. Now you can write here select star from student, enter, and you can see the entire data got loaded here in the table. Now you can see first data, first couple of record, first 20 record, it has loaded from the student file, student.csv.gz, student file, okay? And you can see in the row number 1, 2, 3, 4 like that till 20. Now again, next it is started loading from the student v1.csv, and again it started 1, 2, 3, 4 like 14. So this metadata dollar file name is giving you the file name from which file the data is being loaded. So this data belongs to this file. This data belongs to this file. By this way you can identify. Okay, and also row number provides you a unique number to each and every row. So that is what the activity of the metadata dollar file name and metadata dollar file row number. Okay. Now student data, student file we loaded to the student table. That's fine. Now let's say I'll show you. Let me copy this step. Now 1 second. Now if you go here in the student stage, now you can see still we have the student file and customer file also, right? So now I loaded the student file to the student table. That's fine. It is quite possible because as I told you, from the student stage you can load the data to the student table. But now let's say I want to load the customer data to the customer table from the student stage. That is not possible, as I told you, because from the table stage you cannot load the data to the multiple table. From student stage, you can load data to the student table. From customer stage, you can load the data to the customer table. So now if I try to load the data to the customer table from the student stage, what will happen? Let me show you. Now you can see I want to load the data from student stage. So from student stage, I'm loading the data to the customer table. I mentioned the file name also. And at the same way I will be entering. So you can see we'll get an error. Access to the stage area of the table student with the schema of another table customer is not allowed. So you cannot access the student stage by customer table. Similarly, customer stage by student table. So that's the reason we table stage is table specific. From table stage, you can load the data to that specific table only, not to the other table. Okay, that you have to remember. Another one is there, that is called, we call it as an user stage. User stage, as I told you, it created whenever a user gets created. So whenever a user will be created, the user stage also gets created. So you can see here, I can write list @till. I did not created this stage, but this is automatically created. You can see no files are there right now. Now I am creating one table called customer underscore v1. Okay, so let's create it. So this is the table I created. Now you can select the data, select star from, so customer underscore v1. You can see no data is available, right? Now what I will do, I will load the data to the as we did in last two example. We will load the data from our file, okay, from our local to user stage. You can see put file from the local all the CSV to the user stage. Enter. You can see now the data got loaded. Now if you write the list, so where it is, if I write here list @tilde and enter, and you can see right now you will be able to see this 2-3 files available here. Now from here I will be loading the data to the customer table, as well as I will show you I can load the data to the student table also. Now you can see, let me load the data to the customer table. Let me do that. So from v1 table which I created here, and from user stage,
file format pattern on error purge is equal to true, enter. Now you can see the data gets loaded. Now if you check the select star from table name, you can see the data gets loaded into the table. Now if you write the basically list at the rate, you can see because of this purge statement that the customer file got deleted from here, and student files are there. So this is the way you can load the data from the user stage. Now from the user stage, I will load another file to the another table, but this time I will load the semi-structured file. So before that, what I need to do is I will use the put file command to load my JSON file to the user stage. I will not do with the named internal stage. You can practice with the named internal stage as well. I'll do with the user stage. So what I'm doing, I'm loading my JSON file to my user stage. This is the user stage. So let's do that. Now you can see the data got loaded. Now if you see the list at the rate tilde, you can see here we have the person JSON file and student file available. Now already from the user stage, I loaded the data to the customer table. Now from the user stage, I will load the data to the JSON underscore TBL table as well. For that reason, to show that I'm using the user stage. Let me create a new table with the variant data type. Let me create. Once it is done, I will be creating one file format definitely, because this time I am loading the basically your JSON file. So I need to create the file format with type JSON. So I created. Now once it is created, now I will be loading the data to the JSON underscore TBL table from the user stage. File format is equal to JSON underscore format, and one thing I need to write here, that is called pattern, because you can see here we have student file and JSON file both. So I don't want to load the CSV file. I want to load only JSON file to this table. So that's the reason we will be mentioning here the pattern clause. And what I will write here, dot star JSON dot star. So I want to load only JSON file to this table. So I will mention the pattern clause, and you can copy this one and bring it here and enter. Now you can see the data got loaded. Now you can say select star from JSON underscore TBL semicolon enter. You can see your entire data in a semi-structured data has been loaded into this table, and this you did with the user stage, right? So you can see from this user stage, last time we loaded the data to the student table, sorry, customer table. From this user stage, now you loaded the data to the JSON underscore TBL table. This thing is not possible with the table stage. This type of activity from one stage you can load to multiple tables. This is only applicable for user stage and named internal stage. You can do the same thing with the named internal stage also. But in case of table stage, whatever stage you are using, you can load the data to that particular table only. If you are using student stage, you can load the data to student table. If you are using customer stage, you can load the data to the customer table. Like that it works. So this is the way basically you work with the internal stage. Clear? Any doubt, any question? Okay, all good? Fine. Fine. So that's all. We'll join again tomorrow and we'll continue. Okay. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
The meeting has ended. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.